We officially start our meeting, and may I start by giving the floor to our dear host, His Excellency the Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of Spain, José Albares. José, please.
Thank you, dear Ayman. I will speak in Spanish. You have translation with your headphones. Alto representante de
Representative of the European Union, dear Josep, Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, dear Ayman, Excellency, the President of the Foundation Anna Lind, dear President of the Social Economic and Development Council, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean, dear ministers, ambassadors, welcome once again to Barcelona, to the Regional Forum of the Union for the Mediterranean, an open city, open to dialogue. The Mediterranean identity is a fundamental part of the city of Barcelona and of the Spanish identity. And once again, Barcelona becomes the capital of the Mediterranean. And we meet here in very difficult times for our region, the Mediterranean, and also for the challenges and the threats looming the region, explain that this forum is even more necessary than before. And this is why Barcelona and the Union for the Mediterranean, the forum, offers an opportunity, a unique opportunity, so that the dialogue and the cooperation bring us to peace, the peace that we want in Middle East and in the region. This year, we will not be able to underline enough this tragedy that we are living, the tragedy that they are living in the Middle East. This is why my first words are for the people who are suffering the conflict on the ground, the civilians who lost their lives, the injured people, the kidnapped people, their families, their relatives, the people who lost their homes, people who are displaced. We need to finish this suffering, and we need to put the people, no matter their nationality or their religion, in the focus of the decisions we are taking. So we have a great opportunity today to continue with the discussions that we started a few weeks ago in Madrid, in New York, in Paris in the last days. We need to move forward. We need to boost and look for consensus so that the peace and stability in the region is not just wishful thinking. We need this to be a reality. And facing the magnitude of the tragedy in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, we agreed 1 year ago some political issues that we need to decide today and that threaten the stability of our shared region. And today we have a Euro-Arabic Islamic dialogue on the table, and we need to look for the common ideas, shared vision of peace for our region. The countries of the Mediterranean agree on the humanitarian catastrophe to achieve these cease of fire, the release of the kidnapped people. And the Palestine Authority has to start the stabilization of all the Palestinian territories, and this has to start soon, also focusing on the reconstruction of the region, and so that the humanitarian aid is a success, and we will need an Arabic consensus, international and European consensus from all the stakeholders, the United Nations and UNRWA, which is still an important organization for thousands of people in Gaza and in the region. And also, we need to have a political perspective that can find a Palestine state, a guarantee for the security of Israel and all the region. So we are meeting today again in Barcelona in the last year. We've found consensus in our solution, the two-state solution, but it is not enough. We need to implement it from the theory to the practice, and the European Council has committed to take steps forward in this direction, and this is why we need to talk about this, to have European, Arabic, Islamic countries and working together. The Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two States meets in Riyadh this week for the first time, and they will try and find concrete measures, trying to celebrate this international peace conference that Spain is asking for. And also, but we see the reality, the deterioration of the situation in Gaza, where the living conditions right now are just unbearable, and also in Lebanon, suffering the horrors of the war and threatening its own sovereignty, and the whole region witnessing as well. The Mediterranean countries also witnessing with a lot of concern the constant scale of the war. And also with the war, we saw the collapse of our international system. The United Nations are questioned. The Secretary General is declared persona non grata, and the CNUL police bodies are attacked, violating the international law, and the United Nations agencies are qualified as terrorist organizations. And the international law, the humanitarian international law, if we allow all this, will be just declarations and the resolutions of the International Court that must be abided by, but they are being ignored. And this is happening while there is another conflict shaking Europe, the illegal war in Ukraine. And Europe right now has to make its voice listened to face these threats, to face these challenges. These threats for the European Union and the United Nations, these organizations that are here to support us, to protect us. And this is the goal here. This is the goal of this meeting, to agree on decisions that will achieve results, and to look for this an escalation of the war, and to give an answer to the humanitarian needs, and also the stabilization of the region, and also to establish the foundations for political commitments that will have an impact on the events of the future. We want the Mediterranean to be a region of security, of prosperity, and of peace. And this organization, the Union for the Mediterranean, that is shaped like all of us because of the impact of the war. It was born precisely with this goal, to create this space of dialogue, peace, stability. And I wanted to underline it to all the members, the co-presidents and the Secretary General Nasser Kamal, the big Brazilians, And we need to acknowledge the extraordinary work of the co-presidencies, the Secretary General, and all the countries that belong to the Union of the Mediterranean. In such a complicated context, the organization has kept its activity and its commitment and active participation of all of us. Our peace agenda, our program for the day after, have to be linked to the Union of the Mediterranean, and thinking about the future of the Mediterranean and of the Middle East, that we need to think about the goals and priorities of our regional partnership. In the last 5 years, the Mediterranean space and our citizens, we are almost 700 million people. And we've had to face these threats and these challenges make us rethink our actions. And it is not just changing what we've been doing in the past, but we need to adapt our policies and the tools that we already have to the reality of the present and to the challenges of the future. We need to reinforce our commitment with our region and with our organization. And we are a lot here in Barcelona, and this proves that this is all we want. We have great opportunities in front of us, multilateral scale, European scale, and in the Union for the Mediterranean, with the support of the co-presidencies and the secretaries, that we are fully committed. We are boosting concrete proposals to reinforce our organization. And we've witnessed some improvement, and we want to boost this process. And at European scale, we see the appointment of a new commissary for the Mediterranean, and it's not only the Mediterranean countries having this new commissioner, and also the commitment to make a pact for the Mediterranean that is following these lines with the appointment of this new commissioner. So we want to reinforce this policy of the southern neighborhood. And today, the ministers have the opportunity to give a clear political orientation, to establish the foundations, to reinforce this partnership, so that next year, 30th anniversary of the process of Barcelona, we can adopt a roadmap that needs to be powerful and adapted to the needs of the region. Spain will be committed to this Mediterranean partnership and with the different institutions. And this is why we give our support to the Union of the Mediterranean. And we have doubled our contribution with 1 million euros to projects that are implemented by the organization with the support of the Catalan Agency of Cooperation. We are going to reinforce also the structure of the Union of the Mediterranean with a new diplomat and civil servants to the team, and signing an agreement for the headquarters adapted to the needs of the organization. And we have also increased our support to the Anna Lindh Foundation, a key organization to boost dialogue and to strengthen the civil society in both banks of the Mediterranean. And also with the solid commitment of the region, Spain also, in order to achieve the peace and the stability that we want in the Mediterranean region. And also my support and my best wishes to the cities of Tirana and Alexandria. In 2 months, they are going to open the first edition of European capitals for dialogue. This culture and this dialogue is going to get us closer to this peace and stability. This progress that with 700 million inhabitants wish and hope for. And this is why we wanted to show here the commitment of Spain towards the peace in the Mediterranean. Thank you very much, and welcome to Barcelona.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning. morning. I'm going to first of all thank Spain and the Minister for the continuous support to our organization, and also for the work Spain does in favor of the Mediterranean region and the peace in the Mediterranean. I wanted to thank the attendance of Nadia Calvino, the President of the European Bank of Investment. Its contribution is going to be decisive to boost our cohesion policies in the Mediterranean region. Thank you very much, Secretary General, my co-chair, the Minister of Jordan, and all of you.
We know that our common Mediterranean is on the edge. We know the dire situation. The Spanish minister has described it very well, very in detail. I am not going to repeat his explanation because I share completely his approach. Just to remind that there is another focus for us Europeans, which is Ukraine, where the Russia illegal war of aggression has existential implications for us, but it has not altered our strong commitment to our partners in the South. Not before the 7th of October, not after. Our southern neighborhood has always been one of the main points of focus for the European Union. But we know the situation on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. We know very well how Israeli extremist ministers have engineered repeated violation of the status quo of the holy site. For example, we know how the war has been expanding to Lebanon, how in the West Bank lethal violence that has expanded the war. We know the cycle of retaliatory attacks engulfing the entire region, in particular in Lebanon. In this context, the European Union called for an immediate ceasefire across the blue line and for the application of the Security Council resolutions, called for the role for the Lebanese armed forces and for UNIFIL, condemning the unacceptable attacks that the Israeli Defense Forces are doing against UNIFIL structures and personnel. But the most important concern today is the dire situation of the people in North Gaza. The most acute humanitarian crisis since the World War II. And the way this war is being taken against civilians has grave concerns and puts too many unanswered questions. All United Nations organizations, from the International Red Cross to OCHA, to World Food Programme, to World Health Organizations, are warning about the situation there. We have to do something more than just expressing concern. We should go out to this meeting with a stronger commitment to put pressure in order to stop this dramatic situation. I want also to remind you that during our last General Assembly, we launched the Global Alliance for the implementation of the two-state solution. This Global Alliance should serve as an umbrella under which all global partners can bring their contribution in order to implement the two-state solution. The key word is implementing. Stop saying that we support. Start doing. Start acting in order to make this solution implemented. And that's why I'm happy to know that on the next day is going to be the first meeting of the technical groups in order to continue this process in Riyadh, followed by a second one in Brussels, I hope, by the end of November, before the end of my term. And after, others will be hosted in Cairo, Amman, Ankara, and Oslo, focusing on concrete actions and points identified by the participants. We have to remind also the situation in Iran. The Israeli retaliatory attacks against Iran, as confirmed by IDF, occurred amid severe and growing regional tensions. It is crucial to use all our channels of communication to lower these tensions and contribute to de-escalation. Before hearing your views, I want to emphasize that the Union for the Mediterranean was born out of the Barcelona process in '95, just immediately after the killing of Rabin. When the peace process was jeopardized by this assassination, here in Barcelona, the Barcelona process was launched in order to make everybody contribute to peace, stability, and security in the Mediterranean. This has to be strengthened by all means available. And today we have the opportunity to discuss what this Union for the Mediterranean can do to help to create stability. It's 15 years of the UfM. During these 15 years, these organizations have had a growing role in regional integration, in dialogue, in cooperation, but we do more. We have to do more. The UfM was created from a shared political will to revitalize efforts to transform the Mediterranean area into an area of peace, democratic cooperation, and prosperity. That's where the words of the Paris Summit Declaration in July 2008, how far we are of these objectives. We need to bring back to this spirit today. Today is the moment to launch a new wave of reforms on this organization in order to make it stronger and able to contribute better to policy shaping, bringing concrete solutions. We, European Union, will remain committed to helping reform and strengthening the organization. But it has to be done. The Secretary General and the two co-chairs has to actively push for reforming this organization. Otherwise, it will be slowly becoming not able to fulfill the mandate given in Paris in 2008, following the crisis of 1995. This is my hope, and this is the commitment of the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you, Josep. Again, good morning to you all, and allow me to start by thanking our gracious host, José, for hosting us yet again, and thank my co-chair, Josep, for the tremendous efforts that he continued to put to reinvigorate this organization and to contribute towards achieving its goals of bringing about peace, stability, integration, cooperation to our region. And my thank also goes to the Secretary General for his and his team's continuous work and effort to make sure that we deliver on the mission for which this organization has been established. And if I may welcome also in this meeting the participation of the chair and members of the Arab Muslim group that was formed by the Arab Islamic Summit in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this year. Colleagues, it's been a horrific year since we last met here in Barcelona. When we met in November last year, Israel had killed 15,000 Palestinians. The number of its victims now has crossed 43,000. That is in addition to tens of thousands buried in the rubble, to a whole population being starved. Not only did we see the aggression continue, but we saw it escalate against innocent people in Gaza. We see a quieter war taking place against Palestinians on the West Bank and against all the fundamentals and the foundations of peace. And of course, we've seen that aggression escalate now and expand to Lebanon, where we see also innocent people being killed day in, day out. And this is why it is imperative that we meet today, because the Union was established again was born of a moment of hope when the Barcelona process was launched to bring about peace and stability. Well, peace and stability are being compromised now by an aggression that has no purpose other than just more wars and more killings and more destructions. The consequences are huge, not just in terms of the current unacceptable human toll that we see, but also in terms of implications for our international order, for international law, for international humanitarian law. Every tenet of international law and international humanitarian law have been violated by Israel. We see that happen day in, day out. And that really begs the question of what is the world going to do? Are we going to continue to be unable to stand up to what is clearly a violation of everything we stand for? Or are we going to take action? What Israel is doing is not just challenging international law, it's challenging European values. And again, I refer to the association agreement that the EU and Israel has. Is Israel violating that agreement or not? These are questions that need to be put and need to be faced courageously, because if we do not, the consequences will be horrific, because nobody will have any credibility going forward talking about international law, talking about human values, talking about human rights. This is the reality with which we have to grapple, and this is the reality that we have to face with courage and say enough is enough. Enough killing has been done, enough destruction has been done, enough undermining of the prospects for peace have been done, and enough violation of international law and humanitarian law and European values has been done. The facts are staggering. Again, not just the number of people killed, but look at the number of humanitarian workers that have been killed, the largest in any conflict that the world has seen in decades. Look at the number of journalists killed. Look at the number of women and children killed, amputated, children left without parents to take care of, in the middle of a whole region that has been reduced to rubble, where there's no electricity, no water, no functioning hospitals. This is the reality that we have to speak against very effectively, and we have to take action immediately to make sure that it stops. And it stops now, because with every day that it continues, it shames all of us. This is the reality that we have to face. My friends, 625,000 kids in Gaza have not gone to school for 2 years. Their schools have been destroyed. Those that are still standing are shelters. And even those shelters are not protected because they are being attacked. And we see kids being killed in those shelters. 45,000 6-year-old Gazans have not had the right to go to school this year. Look at what kind of future this is going to bring to all of us. And again, what is the purpose of this war other than just destruction and killing and sending a message to the world that nothing matters when it comes to the application of international law when it comes to Israel? Because this impunity that the world has unfortunately given Israel has enabled it and has allowed it to continue with this aggression. Look at what's happening in northern Gaza for the past 3 weeks. A whole population was starved. Not a single truck of food, of medicine was allowed into northern Gaza for weeks. And we've seen what happened at the Kamal Adwan hospital in the last 3 days. A hospital was besieged. Doctors and nurses were rounded up, so patients, children were left with nobody to take care of them. And then even the ICU unit was attacked. Even the oxygen station was bombed. And children were killed and patients were killed. This has to stop, and we cannot remain silent about that. We in the Arab world have been unequivocal about our commitment to peace. We said that we are committed to the two-state solution that will allow for an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on Palestinian national soil to live in peace and security with Israel. What is Israel saying? What is their offer? Our offer is clear. You all know it. We've shared it. It's been there since 2002 when the Arab Peace Initiative was put on the table. Many of us in the Arab world, a group of us came and renewed that offer. The Arab Muslim Contact Group has been unequivocal that we want a peace that will guarantee the peace and security for all peoples in the region, including Israel. But what is Israel putting on the table other than pushing the region further towards the abyss of regional war and further destruction? And that is why we have to act, my friends. We have to act decisively, and we have to act immediately. The end of an aggression must be the priority for all of us in the international community. The end of using food starvation as a weapon must end. That should be a priority. Protecting international law, protecting international humanitarian law must be a priority for all of us, because if we do not protect it, as Israel is violating it, how can any one of us speak again when another country is violating international law or international humanitarian law? War will not bring security to Israel. Peace will, justice will. The path to that peace is clear. The right of the Palestinian people to self-determination has to be realized. Other than that, this vicious cycle of wars and violence will haunt us year in, year out for the future. This has been the past, and this will be the future. Because why did we have wars in the past? Because the rights of the Palestinians were not fulfilled. Unless we fulfill them, why should the scenario change? But we can change it, and we have to change it. And we change it if we all come together, if we all work together in accordance with international law, in accordance with the Charter of the UN, in accordance with our human values, and stop Israel from killing with impunity. This current Israeli government is the most radical in Israel's history. Only yesterday, a member of that government was openly calling for pushing Palestinians out of Gaza, calling for resettling Gaza, calling for pushing all Palestinians out of Palestine, out of the West Bank, and establishing what he perceives as Greater Israel. That is a sitting minister, and how could we not stand up against that and say enough, and again do all that we have to do in order to stop it? So, colleagues, again, we come here today at a very, very horrific moment in our human history. Action is needed, and action is needed now. We have to put a stop to that. We have to speak again in accordance with international law, and we have to all work together towards creating a horizon that would ensure peace and security for everybody in the region by pushing for implementing the two-state solution. And my dear friend Josep and José said it right. We need to implement. We cannot go back to another process that has obviously delivered nothing in terms of bringing about peace and stability. There is no alternative to the two-state solution. The only alternative is more war, and the other alternative is apartheid, where we see it manifested now in the occupied Palestinian territory. Ethnic cleansing should not be allowed to happen. Genocide should not be allowed to happen. Violating international law cannot be tolerated anymore. So this is a call on all of us to act, and to act decisively, and to ensure that everybody is accountable, that Israel is not above the law, that it is accountable to the same standards by which we want everybody to be held, so that all countries and all peoples are treated equally, and international law is not applied selectively on the basis of the balance of power or color or race or religion or nationality. Our union has a lot to offer. Again, its mission is clear. It's one of peace, one of stability, one of cooperation. We need to continue with our work. We need to reinvigorate our union. We need to make sure that we give it the support that it needs in order for it to perform the mission for which it was established, and to make a real contribution to bringing peace and stability to our one neighborhood, because we are one neighborhood. The challenges that we face go beyond, obviously, the immediate catastrophe that Israel is bringing on the Palestinians. It also goes to facing the challenges of the environment, unemployment, poverty, mobility, giving opportunity, tackling the challenges of refugees and migration. All these are challenges that we face together, and all these are challenges that we can only overcome if we work together. Thank you so much. Goes to the Secretary General of the Union, Ambassador. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Safadi. And And thank you, Vice President Borrell, and also my dear Minister Albares, Royal Highness, and all the distinguished participants to our meeting today. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, today I welcome you on this year's forum, and I must acknowledge that these are not normal times. We find ourselves in a moment where the very notion of a new normal feels distant. And we continue to wait for a day after that remains just out of reach. Actually, in my 4 decades of service, I have borne witness to numerous crises and conflicts unfold. Yet, never I have encountered a tragedy as profound as the one currently ravaging the Mediterranean region. Just quoting my dear friend Josep Borrell when he said what's happening today in northern Gaza, or in Gaza in general, is the most acute, as you said, humanitarian situation since World War II. The scale of destruction is deepening, claiming tens of thousands of lives, mostly among the most vulnerable, including women, infants in Palestine and now in Lebanon, with complete disregard to international humanitarian law. This multi-layered catastrophe threatens to wipe out decades of progress and cultivate a culture of hatred and vengeance among our youth who are forced to bury their loved one day after day. The urgency for meaningful action has never felt more pressing, and we stand at a critical crossroads. We all know that there are no shortcuts to peace. It is a journey demanding dialogue, political will, and fair solutions, ones that have been known to all of us for more than 30 years now, the two-state solution. Amidst this turmoil, that vision we once held in Barcelona, within the Barcelona process, now seems to truly drift beyond our grasp. However, in these trying times, we at the Union for the Mediterranean have strived to fulfill our mission with the belief that advancing regional cooperation can offer glimmers of hope. Your presence here today is a powerful testament to your commitment to this organization and its goals. More than ever, our common interests bind us together, reminding us that cooperation is our greatest strength. Reflecting on my journey since the beginning of my mandate, I take pride in the achievements we have accomplished. Strong partnerships forged with organizations like the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, the Swedish, German, as well as the Spanish development cooperation agencies, among so many others. Through those collaborations, we have mobilized over 2 billion in investment and supported more than 60 projects across sectors such as water, environment, youth, job creation, and sustainable blue economy. These collaborations allowed us to double our budget, significantly enhancing our capacity and impact throughout the region, despite what I must say is the very low level of voluntary contribution by most of our member states. For the first time, we have launched targeted UfM grant schemes benefiting projects across several member states. And now we are studying how we can have a role and impact in a day-after scenario, working on a pipeline of projects and initiatives that can be implemented in the early recovery days and beyond, be it in Palestine or in Lebanon. Excellencies, the UfM has also been able to enhance the Euro-Mediterranean region's role in one of the greatest fights of the century, namely climate action, by advocating on the international stage for our region's unique challenges as a major hotspot of climate change. We have promoted scientific understanding of the specific challenges and impacts our region faces, and we have championed collaborative solutions establishing for the first time a space dedicated to the Mediterranean as a specific region at the COP and beyond. Moreover, over the past 6 years, we have promoted collective action and strategies through more than 30 UfM ministerials across different sectors, created follow-up mechanisms to ensure implementation of their declarations, and produced landmark studies to advocate for stronger regional integration, sustainable development, and inclusive growth, pushing to act with a unified voice in the face of these numerous shared challenges. Excellencies, we have managed to establish, despite the difficult regional context, unique, credible, and trusted networks and platforms to enhance dialogue, exchange best practices, and foster collaboration in the region. While I do not wish for this to be merely an exercise in stock-taking, I must express my gratitude and admiration for the exceptional team at the UfM Secretariat. Being only a little bit more than 60 persons, they have stretched themselves thin to accommodate an increasingly demanding mandate and an ever-expanding spectrum of priority areas. Given these challenges, it has become clear that the UfM convening power, its pivotal role, its ongoing advocacy for Euro-Mediterranean cause are more relevant than ever, but that the organization needs profound strengthening. This realization has prompted our member state and the Secretariat to initiate a reform process in 2023 here at the Regional Forum. Since the launch of this reform process, your representatives have been actively discussing the future of this organization, focusing on its mandate, which is reaching the end of its current cycle, as well as its capacity for action and resources. Member States already agreed to a first reform package to enhance the efficiency of the UfM work, and we have been implementing this first reform package during the past year, and key measure has been taken to strengthen the organization, including in relation to regional dialogue platform, the impact of ministerial meeting, communication with our member state, increasing their engagement in our activity, and also the way we approach our UfM label projects. Since a few months now, we have launched the second phase of this reform process, focused on the reflection around UfM future priorities and vision. And we have had substantial discussion with your representatives on where the UfM should be headed to. And I thank your senior officials for contributing to this reflection. But as we continue reforming the organization and gaze towards the horizon, allow me to ask you three very simple questions on what a Mediterranean we wish to build. The first, is Euro-Mediterranean multilateral cooperation truly a strategic priority on your agenda? Second, are you willing to engage and empower the UfM to play an active role in further promoting integration and building a prosperous region? And my third and final question, if so, are you willing to invest in boosting the UfM resources and capability? Gentlemen, ladies, the path ahead is illuminated by the lessons of our past, both the triumphs but also the setbacks. It is imperative that we craft a new vision for our regional cooperation in the Mediterranean, one that is comprehensive, structured, and coherent, rather than simply settling for the mere management of bilateral relations between the two shores of the Mediterranean. The final decision, Excellency, rests with you. The answer lies in our collective political will. I hope you will seize this opportunity to leverage the unique nature and strength of the UfM and its expertise rather than opting for the status quo. Together we must strive to create a Mediterranean defined by unity, resilience, and common purpose. The UfM stands committed and prepared to accompany all efforts towards this end. Let me conclude this intervention, ladies and gentlemen, to take a moment to thank and commend the exceptional leadership of my esteemed friend and co-chair, Josep Borrell, who has been at the helm of the European diplomacy for the past 5 years. Your courage, unwavering determination, sense of justice, and steadfast commitment to cooperation, to the Mediterranean as an idea, as a dream, have left an inedible mark in our collective efforts. Your contribution have been instrumental in shaping the future of our endeavors. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all what you did for this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll have 3 more interventions before in the opening session before we go to the ministerial debates. And allow me now to give the floor to the presidency of the Arab Summit, His Excellency the Foreign Minister of Bahrain, Adir Abdul Latif. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The presidency is really with Saudi Arabia, but being here, yes, for the Arab Summit. Okay, sorry. Okay, good. Your Excellencies, my dear friend and brother, really, José, Your Excellency Ayman, Your Excellency Josep Borrell, Nasser, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have prepared some remarks, but after I've heard what all of you have addressed, I think I don't want to repeat myself, but initially I would like to thank Spain for the hospitality and also for recognizing the state of Palestine. Slovenia, thank you. I ask all others to follow suit, follow the same steps to support such initiative. I would like also to take the opportunity to thank my dear friend Josep Borrell for all your efforts. You worked very hard in the last 5 years. You have demonstrated how important it is to stand by values. You took many shots, and you made us all proud, all those people who believe in the same values, you made them proud. You will remain a model that we will always aspire us. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being such true friend to the region. I think initially we should start by agreeing that the Europe security and the Middle East security are closely connected. What happens in the Middle East will definitely spill one day over to Europe. The security of and the stability of the Middle East affect the stability and security of Europe. And this goes in line with the Barcelona process. Therefore, I think we need a shared vision that we all agree on. I think that the shared vision, it is strategic. We need to have a safe, secure, and prosperous Middle East. The world has become so interdependent that instability in any part of the Middle East will definitely eventually affect Europe. But this can only happen through a lasting peace, especially by resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We all, that's also another point that we all have to agree on, that the only possible path forward is to have two states coexist together in a peace and secure environment. We've all seen what happened when Israel's security was jeopardized on the 7th of October. It was tragic, unfortunate, it did happen, but we've seen how important it is to maintain the security. We are today convening together to tackle the consequence of such event. So if we want to achieve the two-state solution, then we really have to achieve two secured states. Security is not only dependent on the hard power. Security would require interdependence of Israel with the countries in the region. And to achieve that economic interdependence, we need to achieve normalization. Normalization between the Arab states and Israel. And we all have said this cannot be achieved, or this can only be achieved if, hand in hand, we achieve the establishing the state of Palestine. And we need to achieve security by ensuring that militias, loose cannons are dealt with in the region. It cannot be isolated. So it has to be a total, comprehensive approach to the region. We need the clear understanding with our European friends. The peoples of the region we all need to create that environment to them where they can live side by side, despite their differences in religion, ethnicity, ideologies, beliefs. That includes, in the future, all the peoples of the region. The peoples of the region, and that's one of the aims that Barcelona process has identified, is to promote human rights. That's what you believe in. We've talked about, and all my colleagues talked about, security, stability, and the need for a ceasefire or stopping the war on Gaza, and the need to quickly reach a point where we can exchange or release hostages, allow the inflow of humanitarian supports. We've seen that the war on Gaza has spilled over to Lebanon, and we all believe that the best way to achieve a resolution to this conflict is by implementing 1701, Security Council Resolution 1701, and Taif Accord. We think that Security Council has been accused of not implementing resolutions, can seize this opportunity and regain credibility by implementing 1701. Israel, before it's too late, think that this is the way to go. They've been calling for it. The government of Lebanon, and we have His Excellency the Minister here, believe that this is the way to go. The only party that doesn't believe in it is Hezbollah. So probably the Security Council can unite and seize the opportunity to regain credibility and show that some resolutions have some teeth and some nails to be implemented, can support and upgrade the capabilities of the Lebanese army to achieve that. Having said all of that, there is the human rights element that we as international community tend not to look into. Barcelona process since 1995, you have identified the importance of promoting human rights, but we are seeing it being violated right in front of our eyes. It's happening in the Middle East. I'll just give you an example. Right now, in the Middle East, according to the UNESCO statistics of 2018, and that was even before Gaza war, before the crisis in Sudan, the number of children in the age category between 5 years old to 15 years old that are out of school are 12 million youth, young people. If terrorist organizations try to recruit just 1%, and if they become successful, we will have 120,000 potential terrorists who grew up watching the images that we are seeing on screens, who have seen their parents killed or displaced, who don't have roof on their heads, who don't have clean water to drink, they don't have access to health services. I think borders will not stop them from doing whatever they think they should do to fulfill their rage, their anger, their hatred, and their thirst for blood. And that's just 1%. So the challenge in front of us is huge. And if we like to honor the Barcelona process and aims, objectives, I think we need to call for us to unite, provide the environment, provide just small hope for those young people. And after the war, that number has increased. And their conditions have even worsened. Now we have people without hands, without arms, without legs, and they don't have hope. So please, we are late in moving along both axes, an axis to stop the wars and an axis to mitigate future challenge. Let's not leave for our children and their children. And when I say our children and their children, not only for the people who are here, or for Europe and the Arab region, but that includes the Israelis, includes the Iranians. Let's give them an environment where they can live together, can coexist and prosper together. Otherwise, we are at disservice to our future generations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Excellency. And now I give the floor to the chair of the Arab Muslim Committee to end the war on Gaza, the Deputy Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Dear Walid, please, the floor is yours.
شكرا معالي السيد أيمن الصفدي نائب رئيس مجلس الوزراء وزير خارجية وشؤون المغتربين في المملكة الأردنية الهاشمية معالي السيد جوزيب الأوروبي للشؤون الخارجية
The representative of the European Commission, Mr. José Manuel Albares, Mr. of the Foreign Affairs of the European Union. First of all, I would like to thank the Spanish government for having organized this forum, and I would also like to thank sincerely and warmly your invitation here for our council in the Arab
التي يبذلها
for participating today in this meeting. We recognize all the efforts being deployed in order to strengthen peace and security in the Mediterranean area, and in particular in this moment where we need to make steps, clear steps forward in order to stop the violence, in order to put an end to destruction, because as you know, it's been attack to Gaza and Lebanon, and the possibility of this conflict disseminating all over and spreading at a local, international level places us before a very important challenge. That's why we are faced to two alternatives. It's either the international community starts working effectively in order to strengthen international law and in order to reach and achieve the two-state solution. It's either we will be faced in this international society to doing nothing, and we will be facing huge challenges in the future with regards to peace and stability in the region, because as you know, the crisis we are witnessing in Palestine and in Lebanon, it's unbearable. We cannot bear anymore. We cannot stand in front of this important escalation in violence, because we're seeing human beings that are being killed, human beings that need to leave their homes and need to take refuge, and in front of the violation of international law by Israel. And this is done without any measure and without any regret against those not respecting international law. And that's why we all know there have been a lot of attacks against the United Nations workers, in, for instance, in UNWRA in the region and in other places. And this is a challenge, and it's a threat, and it's a huge threat in front of and against peace and prosperity. And you can see the spreading of this violence of the illegal colonies in Palestinian region, in the West Bank and in around Jerusalem, is also threatening peace and prosperity in the region. That's why we need urgently put an end to this rise in violence and destruction as soon as possible. It's clear, my dear Hamish, that our discourses are not good enough in order to stop this violence. That's why we need to make clear, strong and brave decisions. And that's why we have organized the first meeting among the peace building in the initiative, the 3rd October in Saudi Arabia, in order to be able to solve this problem. But I think that the meeting in Riyadh will be a decisive step forward in order to truly be able to reach our objectives, which would be ceasefire, liberation of all hostages, and be able for humanitarian aid to reach the population in order to start working on the two-state solution to be implemented, which is a key pillar for a future of peace and prosperity in the region and for everyone. In the region, I think that the two-state solution is the only way forward in order to make progress towards a long-lasting peace, in order to allow Palestinian people to be able to decide on their independent state. It's the only solution that really guarantees the peace in the region. Otherwise, we will be falling into this spiral of violence that will be never ended. And just to conclude, we are completely committed to work towards this in order to transform words and discourses into acts, clear reality in the whole region. Thank you very much.
The floor to Her Royal Highness Princess Reem Ali, President of the Anne Foundation. Your Royal Highness, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, because the situation in our region makes it impossible to conduct business as usual, I wholeheartedly support the decision to discuss today the impact of the current war in the heart of our Euro-Mediterranean region. And I would ask that we have a special thought for all the people who have been killed in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. The Anne Foundation was created some 20 years ago with the objective of promoting dialogue and cultural understanding between the Euro-Mediterranean countries and peoples. Ours is not a political organization per se, but we deal with civil societies. So at a time of such unprecedented rupture in our region, we at the ALF feel the impact of the conflict very strongly. In the Middle East itself, societies like that of Gaza, that were already living in precarity long before October the 7th, saw their lives take a dramatic turn for the worse. The death toll grows by the dozens every day, enabled by a continuous flow of weapons. The United Nations top humanitarian official has been warning that the entire population of northern Gaza is at a risk of dying. Only on Saturday, Joyce Msuya described a scene where shelters have been emptied and burned down, families have been separated, and men and boys taken away by the truckload. This is happening in Europe's southern neighborhood. But where exactly are the European neighbors? For Palestinians, Lebanese, and Israelis, the reality of their society today is war. In Gaza, it is one which international law experts say displays all the facets of ethnic cleansing. The UN High Commissioner said on Saturday that this was the darkest moment in the war on Gaza. So what legacy do we intend to leave for future generations when they ask, what did you do to save our humanity during the darkest hours? Despite the physical devastation and profound distress, members of our network in Palestine, Israel, and Lebanon have expressed how crucial and urgent it is to continue working along the lines of dialogue in order to prepare the aftermath of the conflict. They point out, however, that in view of the intensity of the suffering, work should, for now, be carried out within the confines of each society. In Palestine, civil society members do what they can. In the West Bank, they carry out workshops for children who cannot go to school because of increased settler violence and restrictions imposed by the Israeli army. In Gaza itself, where some of our own members, affiliates of our organizations, have been killed, about 30 until now, dozens remain unaccounted for, and all 70 offices of our affiliates have been destroyed by Israeli bombings. Those we know of, and who are still there, have reoriented their activities toward humanitarian work, including helping children with psychological support. In Israel, where tens of thousands have been displaced in the north and schools remain closed, civil society activities are drastically reduced. And in Lebanon, where more than 2,000 people have been killed by intense bombings and more than 1 million displaced only in the last month, activities of our members are now all at a complete standstill. Generally speaking, our meetings with civil society leaders from our network over the last year reveal an increasing sense of frustration on the part of this youth, which we claim we want to empower. Many of them complain, mainly in Europe, about their government's response regarding the war, where double standards has become the norm, and the continuous violations of international humanitarian law. So in addition to a rupture between North and South and increasing polarization within societies of our Euromed region, we now face a rift between the youth and governmental institutions. In view of all of the above, I ask again today, do the voices of hundreds of thousands of people who march in the streets demanding an end to the conflict matter? Do the cries of the families shattered, the children bombed, or the people burning alive matter? Does our dialogue still rest on implementing equally the values of equality, justice, and dignity for all? The challenge that all of us face is, how do we reconcile our work with the values we claim to uphold and the realities before us? It is time to invest more in the work done by civil societies, which is firmly rooted in these values. These civil society organizations fight through concrete activities the inequalities that fuel extremist ideologies of all kinds and counter divisive acts and discourse. They are asking, as made clear by the Civil Society Declaration announced yesterday here in Barcelona, for a civil society-led peace process. We welcome the creation of the Office for the Commissioner of the Mediterranean, with the goals of fostering deeper cooperation between the European Union and the southern Mediterranean countries. The Pact for the Mediterranean will mainly focus on investment facilitation, trade promotion, and job creation. The work on dialogue that the ALF does with the 4,500 civil society entities under its umbrella is likewise very concrete. The ALF puts youth, gender, living together, misinformation and disinformation, cultural diplomacy, and green and digital AI transitions at the center of our action. All of our programs are designed to replace negative mutual perceptions with mutual knowledge and understanding. The guidelines we follow embody the principles at the core of the foundation. These principles remind us that culture is by nature egalitarian, giving equal weight to all its forms. It is therefore both the basis of and the vehicle for an equitable relationship. We hope that the Commissioner for the Mediterranean can draw from the ALF's rich and valuable experience navigating exchanges and dialogue among young people. As the conflict in the Middle East exacerbates the drift toward extremist ideologies on both shores of the Mediterranean, we believe that this new European focus can greatly benefit from the indispensable role played by civil societies through a multilateral approach. We shouldn't underestimate the force for good that are the grassroots movements we seek to empower as a regional group. Without their buy-in, bringing people from opposite sides of a conflict around a table may prove impossible. But history has shown that with it, it can be achieved. The Franco-German Youth Office is an example to consider, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that helped bring about the end of apartheid in South Africa, another. Of course, whatever we try to accomplish right now will remain of limited scope and reach, unless the main issue that gnaws at our region is solved, and that can only be achieved by putting an end to arms sales, without which calls for a ceasefire are meaningless. There must also be, of course, a solution that is just. But once the sound of the bombs actually stops, one thing is certain. In all three countries which have been severely impacted by the war, there will be an immediate and crucial need for support, in addition, of course, to the urgent and massive humanitarian needs in Palestine and Lebanon. So preparing the day after must start now. The current polarization in the north and the south of the Mediterranean at large is nothing compared to the risk of extremism that has been fueled by the conflict itself. There will be a great deal of measures necessary to help traumatized societies move away from the logic of war and start a long healing process. To begin with, an acknowledgement of the deep suffering that is taking place will be necessary. As soon as conditions on the ground allow it, the Secretariat will be ready to initiate efforts post-war. We are well aware that this is as much a crisis in values as it is a physical one, and that any of the projects that are very necessary in Palestine, Israel, and Lebanon should be developed with a focus on Gaza, as that is where most of the destruction has taken place. As the European Union is called upon to rebuild Gaza's physical infrastructures, it will also be important to work together with other Euro-Mediterranean countries through long-term collaborations and partnerships, promoting cultural resilience by reshaping perceptions and cultural narratives, more importantly, by healing wounds and reinstating hope. In all this, the civil society has a role to play, a key role. Creating resilience labs, the youth can explore creative solutions to rebuild their communities, empowering them to become agents of change in post-war reconstruction. And of course, dialogue is a powerful tool that helps find common ground between people who have different viewpoints and different cultures, especially after an unprecedented tragedy such as this war. But it is also an indispensable one that guarantees the safety of our entire region. And when populations in Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel stop hearing the hovering of drones and missiles above their heads, it will be up to civil society organizations to rebuild the fabric of societies torn apart, and inevitably to rebuild a dialogue from the ground up. And only then can these populations hope to restore a culture of dialogue and mutual understanding, a culture of peace, and eventually a culture of democracy, a rebuilding of societies through a rebuilding of the minds. As the UNESCO Constitution states, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Thank you very much.